You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Guide for Every Screenwriter, which has been listed as one of the best screenwriting books of all time by the Book Authority. If you're looking for something that reveals the secrets of screenwriting in an easy to understand and engaging way, then this is the book for you. You can find The Guide for Every Screenwriter at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/books. Now, on to the show. All right, welcome to the podcast. I have to tell you, we have on such a cool guest today, legendary director Lloyd Kaufman of Troma. Lloyd, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. I listen to it quite regularly.
Oh,
and it's a very popular podcast. So
no, I really appreciate that.
Honored to be on it because I'm in the underground, deep in the reeds of the underground.
All right. So speaking of underground, I mean, I love films. I mean, you know, cinemas were my church. And Troma Films.
Well, your book about screenwriting is a religious experience, if you ask me. So, oops.
Oh,
so,
well, I appreciate
congratulations to you. It's a bestseller, and you know, if you're interested in writing scripts out there and podcast land, check out this fine script. What's the name of it again?
The Guide for Every Screenwriter. I really appreciate you pitching that for me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good book.
So Troma Films in my house, we weren't allowed to watch them. So, I mean, Troma is its own kind of genre. Like you have horror, you have different types of horror films, but then there's a Troma film. And I had to kind of sneak away to watch Troma films or catch them late at night. And I have to tell you, my favorite was Class of Nukem High. So that
you're not alone. You're not alone. Nukem High is hugely. It's so successful. There have been 5 iterations of Nukem High.
Wow!
Most recent, and they're on Troma now.
They're on Troma now.
Return to Nukem High, and Return to Nukem High. A two-part movie.
Okay. So Troma now it's a new thing you're doing, right?
Well, it's about 4 years old, but the app is only about a year old. So if you have Roku or Google or Apple, or it's on the good platforms, as well as the website troma-now.com.
It's a streaming service of Troma films. That's amazing.
Yes,
all right.
It's the only place. Troma Now is the only place you can see Troma's collection of films. It's exclusive.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool.
And for $50, you can get a whole year of Troma Now, which comprises 50 years of my failed filmmaking, plus hundreds of movies we've acquired or executive produced, meaning we finance them.
Let's talk about Troma for a second, just because, I mean, this is a part of really your origin story, right? I mean, you started out filmmaking, and can you just give me a little bit on what led you into creating this specific type of filmmaking that really has become its own genre?
Well, thank you very much for saying that. But I think Troma is the oldest independent movie studio and probably the only one left that has any artistic sincerity. And Michael Hers and I, we love movies, and Michael has let me guide the aesthetic side of our films, and he doesn't direct he hasn't directed for a long time. We used to direct everything together.
Okay.
So he's allowed me to write, direct, be the auteur, and as a result, we've had an unbroken record of non-profitable movies. So, but luckily, there are fine people like you and James Gunn and Eli Roth and John Voight and Samuel Jackson, all these great people who love Troma, and they keep us going. Troma is fan fueled. We have no money, but we keep making movies. I made three. I directed one and produced 3 or 4 in the last year.
Really? Wow. I mean, and that's dealing with COVID conditions.
Well, the filmmakers. We filmed 2 of them before the movie, before the what do you call it, epidemic began.
Right.
So
Okay.
there's only post-production.
Okay.
And then the one we're producing in England by Liam Regan, who made my Bloody Banjo. My Bloody Banjo is brilliant. It's on Troma now.
Okay.
He is currently shooting his movie. He had to stop shooting during COVID.
Right.
But he's recommenced, and it's going to be terrific. Eating Mrs. Campbell. I think it's the Martha Stewart biopic. He's a big Troma family member, and Mercedes the Muse, whose movies we distribute on Troma Now and Troma. We've given her money to produce her new movie, Divide and Conquer.
Cool.
which I'm the producer. It's totally her movie, but it's a wonderful film, and it's I think what feminism is.
So let me ask you about the Troma way of making an indie film. So I mean, obviously budget concise, but you really do want to push boundaries, and there's an edginess to Troma films that you don't find in other productions similar to your own. Like they won't be edgy. They'll be a splatter film to be a splatter film, but there's an edge to Troma where you're trying to get a point across, and then you throw in some slapstick and humor with it as well. Is this pretty reflective of like who you are as a person?
I think so. Speaking of spider movies, we acquired a wonderful British musical called Spy Darlings, in which I appear. I have a pretty good cameo in it.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's on Troma now. It's wonderful. It's about spiders, tarantulas, and yet it's a kind of a punky kind of musical. I think we do things we believe in. The movies we make, all the movies we make, we want to try to change the world a little bit.
Yeah.
So Squeeze Play in 1976 was dedicated to women's rights and the Equal Rights Amendment, which still hasn't been passed.
Right.
Stuck on You. Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead was an anti-fast food movie, but yet it had singing and dancing, chicken Indian zombies, and it's a crazy, entertaining film aimed at younger people. But it got a serious theme that fast food is a very bad American creation. It's bad for the customers, bad for the countryside. These fast food places are horrible looking and terrible for the workers. So. And since we made Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, I see that McDonald's is putting in more salads, and I think you have to speak out.
One thing that I actually really respect about Troma is the fact that you provide distribution to the indie filmmaker, which, I mean, there's so many filmmakers out there that don't have that they don't have that option, and you're very welcoming to the community, and you bring them on, and you can help someone's film get viewed, which I think is incredible.
You're right. You're spot on. We can help people get their films viewed. We can attract more eyeballs for them because we have about 1 million fans. So we're a traditional cult movie studio. The only fly in the ointment is we don't make any money.
Yeah.
So when people give us our films to distribute, we have to tell them up front, look, we're riding the caboose. We're riding the back of we're the herpes of the film industry. We're never going away. But on the other hand, we really aren't making any money. So if you give us your movie, we can't guarantee that you're going to make much money. But because we do have a pretty good fan base, people just want us to distribute their movies, even though they know up front that it's very unlikely they're going to make any money.
But sometimes it doesn't come down to making money. Sometimes they just want an opportunity to have their art, to have this thing they've created be appreciated. And I mean, there is always
You're
that
right.
argument of exposure, right? I mean,
You're
maybe
right.
this
Oh,
leads
no.
to a new
I,
gig.
I'm the same way. I'm an artist. Or I consider myself an artist.
Yeah.
It's not about the money with me. I want people to see the movies. I want to have people to have fun with the movies. And also, I want them to do a little thinking. I don't think when they went to see Nomad that anybody did any thinking, or when they see one of these superhero movies. But you look at the Citizen Toxie, which deals with abortion and some other major issues.
Wow.
You deal with you look at hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, which is my most recent movie, my view of the Tempest by Shakespeare.
Really?
You know, there's a point of view there. There's something to say. It's not just a bland Spider-Man movie. You know, it's got something to say. And,
do you have a particular affinity for Shakespeare? I mean, because you did Romeo and Juliet.
I love Shakespeare. Yeah, I love Shakespeare. And the Museum of Modern Art recently had a series called Breaking Bard, and the only Romeo and Juliet movies they showed were Zeffirelli's. They showed Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, which is, you know, the actors, except for the priest, the religious guy, the actors didn't know what they were saying.
Okay.
And then Romeo and Juliet, right,
That's
where
cool.
the actors did know what they're saying. We were all Shakespeare students and Shakespeare appreciators. And Romeo and Juliet, which played at 4 p.m. at the Museum of Modern Art in New
That's
York,
cool.
totally outdrew Zeffirelli and Baz Luhrmann, even though they played 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock, because our movie has something to say. And it's got a lot of sex and violence. So the old people who subscribe to the Museum of Modern Art film series, the security guards told me that was the biggest crowd they ever had in a movie.
At the end of that film, I laughed pretty hard when, I mean, spoiler, the Romeo and Juliet have kids, and the kids each have 2 faces.
Isn't that great?
It's
terrific.
It's so wild.
Fun. And James Gunn, James Gunn, who brought you Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, and now bringing you that
Suicide Squad, and
with Lloyd Kaufman in.
That's right. You had a cameo in that, didn't you, in the bar or something?
Did you see me?
I did.
No, you could see me. You actually recognized me?
I saw you. I was like, "That's Lloyd Kaufman." You turn around.
You didn't
and you
think
look at
that
the
was
camera.
another? You didn't think it was another scene with John Cena?
You were in that? You were in a scene with John Cena?
Well, people mistake me for John Cena.
Oh. All right. So what is the future for Troma? Obviously, you are providing distribution for these indie filmmakers that have that type of a genre film that your fan base loves, which is awesome. So what do you have coming out? I mean, I know you have Troma now. Is there anything else going on?
Well, the latest film that I have directed is hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which is my interpretation or my rendition of Shakespeare's The Tempest, maybe his last film.
Cool.
It's my best movie in my 50 years of filmmaking.
Wow.
And probably, like Shakespeare, the last film of Lloyd Kaufman. So that's always been my favorite Shakespearean play. So,
and you feel like this is it? This is the last one for you?
I think so. I don't think I could scrape up $500,000 again to make a movie.
Wow.
I'm producing movies by new young filmmakers for.
That's cool.
Under 50,000. In fact, one is under 25. Got one that's under 25,000. But I can't make those. We've got young new directors who are terrific. We discovered James Gunn. We discovered Trey Parker and Matt Stone. We discovered Samuel Jackson, Eli Roth.
Amazing.
There's a litany of people.
Yeah.
So I think there will be other young people who will carry on my legacy, but I can't imagine. I just can't I don't know how to make a movie for 25,000. I can't do it.
Right.
So, luckily, we have all these wonderful young filmmakers who write.
I think that's awesome that you're providing that mentorship in the community.
And they want to get their movies seen. And Troma Dance Film Festival one of the bonuses that I got out of the Troma Dance Film Festival, originally we created Troma Dance Film Festival via Trey Parker and Matt Stone, because they were so upset with Sundance that they had a Cannibal the Musical Festival, one movie festival in Park City, Utah, during Sundance about 30 years ago.
Wow.
And it was a big success. So we as a result of that, we decided we would set up Troma Dance Film Festival, where you don't have to pay to be excluded from a film festival, which most of these festivals don't even, in my opinion, they don't even look at your movies.
Right.
Troma Dance doesn't charge to go and see the movies. You can see them for free. And we don't have a VIP policy for our wonderful end of festival party.
That's cool.
And we produced Troma Dance in Salt Lake City for about 10 years. And there were, Anna Biller's first movie was in it. I mean, there were all sorts of wonderful movies. And then Troma Dance, which originally was a stick in the eye of Robert Redford. We wanted to kind of underline the fact that Sundance is elitist and not really interested in independent films, unless they come in through the auspices of a famous person like Elijah Wood. Or, they have mainstream champions. So that's where Troma Dance originated. Now we have Troma Dance it started to become taken seriously as a film festival, and we moved it back to New York City. And last year it was in a drive-in due to COVID.
There's a few festivals that did that as well. I guess, do you have any advice for any filmmakers or screenwriters out there that you'd want to pass along?
I think either it depends what you want. You have to decide what is it you want. Do you want an Oscar? Do you want to be walking the red carpet and all that? If that's true, I think you have to go to Hollywood and
LA.
work your way up. James Gunn wanted that. He learned as much as he could from us in a couple of years. He wrote Romeo and Juliet. He's a great guy, incredibly talented. And after Romeo and Juliet, he had a calling card, so he could show Romeo and Juliet, and we had a pretty good time distributing that. It did pretty well.
Yeah.
And then he could, he just kept writing movies. He kept writing and writing and writing and writing. So I think that the key is you have to figure out, do you want the red carpet, or are you happy with being in the underground like Troma and appealing to a very loyal cult following?
Gotcha.
And both of them are worthy. And James Gunn, Eli Roth, others wanted to, make money and be part of the mainstream. They're great. You don't find better people than they. And that's what they wanted. They get what they want. They know how to talk to the suits, which is something I never learned. And they're doing great. Okay?
I heard you're doing NFTs.
Oh, yeah, we're doing NFTs. Yeah, if you go to OpenSea.com, we may be the first independent studio to create NFTs. The OpenSea website for Troma is all about Troma. They're all different. There's some NFTs with Toxic, Kabuki Man. There's some Uncle Lloyd NFTs.
That's awesome.
Some of them have, like Toxic, you can probably get 100 different NFTs.
That's cool.
But there's all sorts of good stuff there.
Very good.
Troma, our motto from 1974 until recently was movies of the future.
Yeah.
And recently, Michael Hurst changed, my partner of 50 years, changed the slogan to Troma disrupting moving images for 50 years.
I love it.
Something like that.
Hey, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter by using my handle @ScreenwriterPod. And if you liked the show, please support it by subscribing and sharing the episode on your social media.